Now, from Nebraska's trusted news source, this is Channel 8 News at 5.
Coming up tonight on the news, the second baby African elephant is born at the Henry Dorley Zoo.
Plus, the latest on who the president may choose to be the next Supreme Court justice.
But first, how to keep teachers in the classroom, educating our kids. Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us tonight. It's no secret there is a teacher shortage here in the state of Nebraska.
We've seen hundreds in the state leave the classroom throughout the pandemic, but a proposed bill is hoping to address that issue. It would remove some of the test requirements for teachers. Channel 8's Alexis Kneski has the details in our top story tonight.
LB 960, introduced by Omaha Senator Tony Vargas, would eliminate certain basic skill and content test requirements in the praxis exam for eligibility for teaching certificates. The intent is to make it a little easier for people to become teachers and address the shortage experienced in communities all across Nebraska.
And at some point in that journey, we asked them to take both the Praxis 1 and a core subject if it is deemed appropriate. And the question is that necessary? If you have a rural community and you are struggling to find a science teacher and you have people that could but have failed the praxis and want to teach.
Some are in favor of the bill, like Adrian Kruger, a junior at Wayne State College, studying education. Over the last 3 years, she has taken the praxis multiple times and has yet to pass. She says the test has become a barrier and a financial burden, and frankly, she's burnt out.
Within these 3 years, I've contemplated changing my major, dropping out of college, and finding new avenues to move on with my education.
She says it's time to get rid of the barriers that is keeping aspiring educators like herself from becoming great teachers.
People wonder why we are struggling to find teachers. Ask a former education major why they switched, and they'll firmly tell you it was because they couldn't pass the Praxis 1.
Several others spoke in favor of the bill at its hearing. No one spoke in opposition. Reporting in Lincoln, Alexis Kneski, Channel 8 News.
The next step is to see if the bill makes it out of the Education Committee and then on to the floor for debate. Some encouraging news when it comes to daily COVID cases in the U.S.
They're down by more than 30% in the past 2 weeks. Again, this is nationwide. Some encouraging signs the country could be through the worst of the Omicron wave. However, in some areas, including here in Nebraska, capacity is at its highest point at hospitals in more than a year.
We're still seeing a big influx of very, very sick patients. I've never taken care of these sick of patients in my entire life.
Now, Bryan Health here in Lincoln also pretty full. They have 105 COVID-19 patients. The last time it was that high was in November of 2020. Today, the Nebraska Hospital Association teamed up with medical professionals.
They talked about ongoing struggles they're still facing statewide. Hospital leaders shared current operational statuses, lasting impacts, and moving forward with COVID. The head of Children's Hospital in Omaha says despite seeing signs that Omicron might reach its peak in the coming weeks, the hospital is staying prepared for whatever comes next.
We're not really looking at the reduction of COVID cases. We're just looking at staying strong and just predicting that COVID is going to be here to stay, and we need to be prepared for other spikes in volume, but really be prepared for respiratory viral season as well, as we're seeing that increase. So I think it's sort of just a constant struggle that we're going to have in healthcare of really being focused on how we manage volume and how we stay prepared for COVID as it goes for the longer term.
Pediatric COVID hospitalizations are currently 4 times higher than at any other point in the pandemic. Children's Hospital saw 18 patients on Friday. This is the largest increase since the beginning of the pandemic. In other news now, an 18-year-old is still in critical condition after a crash we first told you about on Friday.
Lincoln Police releasing the new details today on that and some other recent cases. Police say 19-year-old Edward Walters was driving a white Suburban north on Antelope Valley Parkway in the left turning lane at Salt Creek when he hit a motorcycle. 18-year-old Austin Kinser was transported to a hospital where he remains there right now in critical condition. The investigation into the crash is still ongoing. We also have an update after a pickup truck smashed into the Moose's Tooth store near 27th and Vine over the weekend. Officers say they found the vehicle and driver, 21-year-old Ethan Younkin, several blocks away. Younkin faces several charges, including careless driving and leaving the scene of an accident. Damage to the building is around $75,000. And a third update from police today. This one was a stabbing that happened over a dispute over a card game. Police say it was at CJ's neighborhood bar and grill on West P Street. When officers arrived, they say they found a 49-year-old man who had been stabbed twice in the neck with a bar knife. The victim has non-life-threatening injuries. Lincoln police arrested 47-year-old Stephen Stowers, who they say also had a gun with him. All right, to Omaha now, where the Nebraska Humane Society there rescued another large number of animals.
It's the second one in recent weeks. Last month, they found nearly 600 animals at a home in Papillion. And then on January 25th, a different animal seizure from a home in Omaha resulted in the confiscation of 88 animals, 40 of which were already dead.
The majority of them were dogs, but there were some domestic animals. I think there was a chicken, there was a pig, there were rats, reptiles, and some birds as well. The conditions as described to us by the Omaha police were right on. They were very disturbing conditions. Also considering that humans were living there as well, it just was a bad situation for everybody to be in.
The two recent intakes nearly doubled the number of animals at the shelter. So this means resources have been stretched thin from material care for animals such as food and bedding, but also in terms of doubling staff workload and medical checks.
Now, some animals have been sent to zoos or the Nebraska Wildlife Rescue. Those remaining at the Nebraska Humane Society will soon complete their medical checks and will be available for adoption in the coming weeks. All right, a story now that includes animals, but it should put a smile on your face as well. The stork has visited the Henry Dorley Zoo again,
bringing another baby elephant. The African elephant calf was born last night, and it's a boy. Zoo officials say the calf and 13-year-old mom, Claire, are both doing well. Again, this is the second baby elephant for the zoo this month. For right now, though, the elephant family quarters will be closed to the public to allow for bonding.
What do you think of this weather? For those of you who like a little warm trend now and then, we got it today. John, did we get into the 60s or 60?
We did, in fact, hit 60. We also hit 61 this afternoon. That's what we topped out in the capital city. It's the warmest, or the first time we've cracked 60 degrees in the capital city on this date in 10 years. And it ties for the 5th warmest temperature on this date since 1887. Temperatures are running upwards of 10 to 15 degrees warmer than 24 hours ago. It is currently cooling off a little in Lincoln, where it's 59. It's 59 in Beatrice, 57 Grand Island, and 54 degrees in Hastings. We've got clouds that have moved in overhead. They will stick around for a few more hours before clearing out overnight. A couple cold fronts coming through. The first one will shift our winds around overnight and bring us some slightly cooler air for tomorrow. It's the next cold front up into Montana that brings us a big shot of colder air as we go through the next several days. Now, ahead of these both these cold fronts, 17 states now included in winter storm warnings, watches, and winter weather advisories in anticipation for a storm that's going to impact millions of people. And if you've got travel plans later on this week, you will likely be impacted as well if you have plans to either fly or drive to the east, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. 48 degrees by 8 o'clock, 45 and clearing by 10 o'clock. It'll be a mild night by late January standards, but we've got some cooler air coming in. We'll talk about how much cooler and if we could also get some snow still out of this weather system, although it's going to be mainly to our south. Some of us may still see some of that. So we'll talk about that as well and how much you can expect in my Storm Alert Team forecast.
All right, thank you, John. Now on to Washington and President Biden's decision to name a black woman as his Supreme Court nominee.
He's facing some criticism from GOP lawmakers for that campaign promise, but Biden says it's something that's long overdue. ABC's Ike Ajachi is in Washington with more.
President Biden continuing to mull his choice to fill the vacant Supreme Court seat after Justice Stephen Breyer formally announced his plan to retire last week.
That person will be the first black woman ever nominated to the United States Supreme Court.
Since the Supreme Court was created in 1789, there have been 115 justices, only 4 of whom were women. ABC News has learned there are at least 14 black women under consideration. However, a new ABC News Ipsos poll suggests 3 out of 4 Americans think Biden should consider all possible nominees. There's a partisan split, with almost all Republicans polled saying the president should consider all options. GOP Senator Susan Collins says she supports diversity on the court, but called the president's handling of the nomination clumsy.
It adds to the further perception that the court is a political institution like Congress when it is not supposed to be.
The chair of the Senate Judiciary Committee coming to the president's defense.
This is not the first time that a president has signaled what they're looking for in a nominee.
And an ABC News fact check supports Durbin's view. In fact, many presidents of both parties have explicitly prioritized race, gender, and ethnicity in their Supreme Court nominees. Mississippi GOP Senator Roger Wicker even going so far as to call Biden's choice of an African-American woman an affirmative action nominee, even without knowing anything about her.
Put me in the camp of making sure the court and other institutions look like America.
The White House has confirmed J. Michelle Childs of South Carolina is on the list of potential nominees, a choice supported by Representative Jim Clyburn, one of Biden's strongest supporters.
Both Tim Scott and Lindsey Graham, they are very high on Michelle Childs.
The president says he'll be holding in-person interviews at the White House after he says he'll announce his nominee by the end of February. Ike Ajachi, ABC News, Washington.
Still to come on the news tonight, more than 100,000 Russian troops are now surrounding Ukraine.
The latest on that and your Now to the rising tensions with Russia and Ukraine. The UN Security Council meeting earlier today to demand answers from Russia.
This as we learn the U.S. Secretary of State will be speaking with the Russian foreign minister by phone tomorrow morning.
A heated UN Security Council meeting in New York Monday. America questioning Russia's intentions with more than 100,000 Russian troops surrounding Ukraine.
The situation we're facing in Europe is urgent and dangerous. And the stakes for Ukraine and for every UN member state could not be higher.
U.S. officials called for this public discussion in hopes of moving forward diplomatically.
You've heard from our Russian colleagues that we're calling for this meeting to make you all feel uncomfortable. Imagine how uncomfortable you would be if you had 100,000 troops sitting on your border in the way that these troops are sitting on the border with Ukraine. For us, this is about peace and security.
Russian officials have denied plans to invade, condemning the meeting, saying America is causing hysteria with its rhetoric.
You are almost calling for this. You want it to happen. You're waiting for it to happen, as if you want to make your words become a reality.
A State Department spokesperson telling ABC Secretary Anthony Blinken will speak with Russia's foreign minister Tuesday morning. A critical first conversation since the U.S. responding in writing to Russia's demands.
Regardless of what people's public rhetoric is, it's our view that the door to diplomacy should always be open. And ultimately, the question here is about what President Putin is going to do. So we're always going to keep that door open.
The U.S. sending military aid to Ukraine, instructors training Ukrainian soldiers on missile launchers.
Ukraine will not bow to threats aimed at weakening Ukraine, and the Kremlin must remember that Ukraine is ready to defend itself.
President Biden released a statement saying he is hopeful this can be solved through dialogue. But if Russia chooses to walk away from diplomacy and attack Ukraine, it will face swift and severe consequences. Rena Roy, ABC News, New York.
Now, your Storm Alert Team forecast with Chief Meteorologist John Dessauer.
Pretty nice afternoon and really a nice weekend. As I was telling you last week, I hope you got a chance to go out and enjoy it because we've got colder weather coming our way. Amazingly, going into the last 3 days of the month, we were running about a 31-degree temperature deficit. Well, thanks to Saturday, Sunday, and today, we are now right near normal for the end of the month. We're coming out to 0.1 degree above normal, so just about as normal as you can get for temperature-wise in the month of January. You can see we've got clouds that have moved in overhead. This is a live look right now from Schoen's Roofing in Beatrice, but even with the clouds, temperatures are still very warm. 14 degrees warmer than 24 hours ago in Lincoln. We made it to 61 degrees this afternoon. We're currently sitting at 59. It's 59 in Beatrice and 55 degrees in York. So some very nice temperatures for sure, especially considering our normal high temperature is 37 degrees. Now this evening our temperatures will drop, but drop slowly. With the clouds around initially, we'll see skies turning mostly clear overnight, but a cold front's going to pass. It'll shift our winds around to the northwest, but the colder air is going to lag in many hours behind. So tonight we'll see our temperatures only dropping into the upper 20s to near 30 degrees. In fact, only down to 31 in Beatrice and 30 degrees for a low tonight in Fairbury. Through the day tomorrow, we'll likely keep some clouds around. In fact, by afternoon, I think we'll start to see our skies turning overcast and temperatures will be held down. We're talking highs only in the upper 30s to right around 40 degrees. Forecasting 38 in Lincoln, a little warmer down towards Beatrice and Fairbury and Hebron, 38 in Grand Island and 36 degrees in Columbus. Winds tomorrow moving around to the north, 8 to 16 sustained, gusting at times to 25 miles per hour. So that'll give us wind chill values down into the 20s for tomorrow. You can see the clouds in place tonight. Here is the clearing that is coming our way for later on this evening. But these are the two fronts that are going to pass. This is the one that's going to shift our winds to the northwest, and this is the one that's going to bring in the cooler air for the next several days. And it's not just us that's going to see some cooler air. In fact, if you have plans to travel to the east or have family in the Ohio River Valley, they've got a mess of a weather or of a storm coming their way over the next several days for Wednesday or late Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, including ice for parts of the area and some potential for some very heavy snows. You'll notice right along I-70 from Kansas City through St. Louis up towards Indianapolis and north, some areas could pick upwards of 2 feet of snow. You go just to the southern edge of the heavy band and they still may be picking up a quarter of an inch to half inch of ice. On top of that, they may still see another 8 to 10 inches of snow as well. So be very careful if you're traveling. In fact, you may want to reconsider any travel plans to the east, and we may have some flight delays out of Lincoln and Omaha because the aircraft not being able to get in from Chicago, St. Louis, or Kansas City. So keep that in mind. Now around here Tuesday night, we will have a chance for a few snow showers coming in. You'll see that on Stormcast. And I will admit, this one specific model I'm showing you maybe goes a little far too north. I still think there's a chance we could see a few very light amounts of snow in the Lincoln area, but the better chance is going to be down towards the Kansas-Nebraska state line. And you'll see that as we go through the time period here. This is looking through noon on Wednesday, and we're talking maybe a dusting to a tenth or two in Lincoln. As you get down further south, we may be talking a ½ inch to an inch down towards Beatrice, and maybe an inch to 2 inches down towards Falls City. Overall, not a lot of snow coming our way. 7-day forecast, but it is going to be turning colder. 19 degrees on Wednesday, down to 1 above Thursday morning, 18 degrees on Thursday, but then guess what? We start warming things back up. In fact, we've got 50s by Monday, maybe near 60 degrees by next Tuesday, and temperatures back in the mid-40s for Wednesday and Thursday. At this time, I would be willing to bet the groundhog on Wednesday will not see its shadow. So that means, what, spring starts earlier, perhaps, if the groundhog gets it right this year.
Wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, me either. I mean, been mild right now, and maybe spring's just around the corner.
But you know, and you were saying earlier how you were wanting some snow. It just takes one storm. So at any point, still over the next couple of months, we may get a doozy of a snowstorm, and that could give you your snow.
Aurora's waiting for it. She's got some snow pants to break in. So thanks, John. A great day on Wall Street today. The Dow gaining 406 points. NASDAQ is up 469. Here are your numbers. You're watching Channel 8, Nebraska's trusted news source.
This week, as Omicron cases surge in kids.
Finally tonight, a huge snowstorm socked the northeast states, but one couple wouldn't let it stop their wedding plans.
Jeremy Roth has tonight's Take a Look at This.
Love was in the air in Rhode Island. Unfortunately, so was a massive, gnarly blizzard. But whereas most couples would have pushed their wedding plans and headed for the sweatpants and snuggies, newlyweds Adam and Sally Irujo thought it was a nice day for a white wedding.
We've been planning it for 14 months.
We have a few cutting boards with the state on it,
mugs.
a couple mugs, and a marriage license with it on it.
I mean, they already had the cutting board. What are you gonna do? Flanked by freezing friends and family, the couple took to the icy steps of the Providence Public Library and tied the knot in the middle of the storm.
We're psyched.
Yeah, we're so psyched. Snow couldn't stop us.
Love finds a way. Just look at this nature reserve in England, where after centuries of extinction, beavers are back thanks to a philanthropic beaver dating agency. That's what the Derbyshire Wildlife Trust called their tailored efforts to pair up an adult male and female in hopes, they say, of not just reintroducing a species, but an entire lost ecosystem. The trust released new video of the happy couple patting their nest and are hoping to see new offspring by this spring. Finally, a New York zoo is celebrating the birth of its first chick hatched by a same-sex pair of adult penguins. The zoo says 2 male Humboldt penguins paired up and made a nest during breeding season, so they were given a newly laid egg to test their fostering capabilities. The penguin pop pair passed with flying colors, taking turns sitting on the egg until it hatched a healthy and somewhat historic baby chick. For Take a Look at This, I'm Jeremy Roth.
Cute little chick there. Yeah, let's get a final check of the weather with John. And boy, I hope people had a chance to enjoy today.
That's right, because cooler temperatures are coming. We'll be in the 40s, well, upper 30s to near 40 degrees tomorrow, and then down in the teens for Wednesday and Thursday. This evening, 54 at 6, 48 degrees by 8, 45 by 10. We'll have clear skies overnight, but even with the clear skies, our lows are only going to be in the upper 20s to low 30s. So a mild night by late January standards or early February standards, but just don't be surprised by some cooler air coming in our way, and maybe a little snow for some of us early Wednesday morning, but we're talking just a couple of tenths of an inch.
All right, thank you, John, and thank you all for joining us tonight.
World News is next. We'll see you back here at 6 o'clock.
With the Channel 8 Eyewitness News mobile app, you'll be the first to know. Get alerts about breaking news and weather, all in the palm of your hand.
At Comfort Made Mattress Factory, we build each mattress specifically for you right here in our locally owned store. We can even make his side different than hers, backed by our lifetime comfort guarantee.
Closed captioning on Channel 8 Eyewitness News is brought to you by Christensen Hearing Analytics.
Taco John's changed the chicken game with our fried